What everyday skill becomes suspicious if you're too good at it? Weighing small quantities and knowing convenient reference weights. The weights of currency. Identifying off-white powders. Being able to tell who is in the bathroom with you at work. Recognizing people's smells can get kind of weird when you're good at it. When I was 10/11 in school, if someone left a jumper on the playground and it didn't have a name in it, I would just smell it and give it back to whoever owned it. Once I grew up a bit more, I realized it was weird to smell people's clothes, so I stopped. But I can still recognize someone's possessions just by their smell. Being efficient at work. Finish too quickly and rest a minute. Lazy. Every place I've worked, I always memorize each and every person, names, physical features, and vehicle. Usually in case of an emergency, because you never know. It takes time, but you learn a lot. Memorizing names, phone numbers, favorite colors, credit card numbers, people's daily routines, usual whereabouts. My boss was setting up my time tracking account and it didn't work. He had to try to log in within. I told him the shortcut to open an incognito window in Chrome, Ctrl+Shift+N. But thinking about it, the shortcut is much more useful to a developer who has to test logins or unauthorized access occasionally than to your average masturbator. In the US, being really good at your ounces to grams conversions. Some time ago, we dropped my girlfriend's parents home after dinner to find that they had locked themselves out of their house. Her dad was going to break a window, but it was raining and cold, so he was a little reluctant. My girlfriend had a grooming kit in her handbag, hair clips, tweezers, and so on. Me, being a bottle of wine, thought I'd try picking a lock. For the first time ever, but I'd seen it in video games, so how hard could it be? It turns out that it was ridiculously easy and I had them inside their house within 30 seconds of getting started. I was jiggling something around and all of a sudden the lock popped open. They haven't looked at me the same way since. That minigame in Mario Party 8 where you have to shake the soda can fastest to make your soda shoot up the highest. Maybe almost 2 centuries ago, Disraeli was involved in a game of billiards and said to his very good opponent, "Sir, your prowess at this game bespeaks a wasted youth." Recognizing behavior patterns. Most people will recognize obvious behavior patterns like Justin is late for work every day, but as soon as you start predicting someone's future actions based on some fact, you seem like a creep stalker. Almost caught myself out once. Had just turned 18, was a smoker, asked to bum a cigarette from a family member and they sarcastically tossed me a pouch and said, "Sure, if you can make one." 30 seconds later I tossed the pouch back to them and lit up my cigarette. They asked, "You roll your own cigs?" I said no. Oops. I don't know if this is an everyday skill, but I'm still gonna comment. I was a bartender for years and years. I used to memorize what people drank, like to the point of creepy. Example, someone could come in one time then stop in 6 more later and I would remember what they drank. I got called out on it a few times. One guy in particular found it so strange. He came in, had a vodka gimlet and left. About 3 more later came back in, and I looked at him and said vodka gimlet, and he told me that was kinda weird. I remembered that. I tried to explain that it didn't make him special or anything. Tried explaining I couldn't remember names or even what we talked about, but I almost always remembered a customer's go-to drink. He totally thought I was full of shit and had a crush on him or was creepy. It always hurt my feelings when people acted put off by it, because I thought it was pretty frickin' cool of me. I would be impressed if I was on the other side of that bar. Whatever I should have said, I always remember the drinks I poison. But that would have cost me my job and maybe landed me on probation. Sorry for the frickin' novel. Okay, I'm done. Bonding with kids. Why is my kid seemingly fascinated with Rondo in the checkout lane? It's cause I work with kids and apparently give off a vibe about it, I guess. I don't know. I'm just trying to buy my groceries, not get weird looks from parents. Started a new job recently. Much higher station than I'm used to, working around suit-tie professionals and having to learn the politics game, etc. So one Friday night my new boss recommends that the team, 6 of us, head over to the bar down the road to shoot some pool. Place was very fancy. I'm talking gold leaf gilding along the wall paneling, extremely elaborate pool table set in the middle, private waitress just for our area, the works. So my boss is apparently an avid pool player, as he looked to tell us. Out of respect I would just nod and act impressed when he would try to explain this to us. I didn't want to tell him I'd grown up on a table and played in leagues tournaments nearly nightly. We start to play and the new guy gets to play the boss first. It quickly becomes awkward. Boss starts making a series of uncomfortable excuses as to why he's losing, starting with the lighting and ambience to the cloth quality of the table to the size of the balls. I told myself to miss on purpose more than once, but I couldn't do it. It felt deceitful. So the game ended pretty quickly and the boss began asking me a series of questions about the smoke and alcohol filled bars. I'd spent my time in learning this skill. Ultimately it helped me gain some respect going forward with boss and team, but it was a very awkward couple of hours reflecting and giving my boss a brief window into my unsavory bar crawling past. Lockpicking. It's slightly suspicious anyway, but much more so if you are really good. You can pass off a casual interest far better. Cleaning a room. There's a line between damn this looks good and wondering if someone was just murdered and the evidence had to go. Saving and investing money. Unless you have a high-paying career, people wonder how you earned that money or if you are in lots of debt or they assume you are cheap. Knife sharpening. To the point where the person's blades gleam with a precise edge. Remembering things. People can find it creepy and it's often more favorable to pretend you forgot something or need a few seconds to recall it or just generally act like you know less or are aware of less than you actually do. And no, I'm not saying I have some photographic genius level memory or am incredibly perceptive or something, but it still applies and it's often silly and feels like wasting time and sometimes it's transparent when other people do it too. Undoing a woman's bra as a man. I've got skills. My girlfriend thinks it's a sign of loose morals. Shuffling a deck of cards. One of my poker buddies is an amateur magician. We don't let him deal. Knowing how to mount a horse when you don't know how to ride. If you're in the US, using metric of you know it well, you are either a scientist or a drug dealer. Opening a beer bottle with something other than a bottle opener. Butchering meat, especially if you do it over a shower curtain. Reading body language. How people say things in certain situations and know what they're trying to gain. I hate passive people. I like to call people out on it, especially if they're trying to be hurtful. My mum suffered from a really nasty dog bite, very graphic stuff. We didn't want to go to the ER to get her patched up because of the glorious American healthcare system, so I decided to patch up the wounds myself. I took about an hour to clean, sterilize, close all of her gashes. After about a week she made a routine DR's appointment to check up on how the wounds were healing. The doctor explained that the wounds looked too clean and was surprised they weren't done in a hospital. He was shocked that I could do what I did from my home and said the scars would probably be unnoticeable very soon because of how quickly we tended to it. Doc said I missed my calling. Knowing where things have been set down, especially in other people's houses. Used to airsoft with a bunch of guys and we would gather at one house afterwards to review footage, pictures and work on gun repairs. I set down some pliers and a couple screwdrivers and they got covered up by some jackets. A few hours later one guy came asking if anyone knew where the pliers were and I described exactly the location. Everyone thought it was weird, lie specific. For fun we used to vote for a man of the match, MVP, and dong of the day, like an anti-MVP, at the end of our Sunday League soccer matches. The two winners of those awards had to race by drinking a can of fizzy soda the fastest. Idea being the participants would struggle and it would be funny. One day I was in that race, and I necked that thing so fast and the other guy had barely started. I kinda disappointed everyone who wanted to see two people suffer through a difficult race. I used to drink a lot of soda. That race kinda exposed me. Chopping vegetables, exemplary skills with anything stabby. If you can tell the license plate numbers of all 6 cars outside. If you can tell that your waitress is left-handed and the guy sitting up at the counter weighs 215 pounds and knows how to handle himself. If you know the best place to look for a gun is the cab or the grey truck outside, and at this altitude, you can run flat out for a half mile before your hands start shaking. Giving head. Seriously, my husband got super creeped out because one day I must have done a much different or amazing job. He got completely freaked as though I had been hustling him with mediocre BJs over the previous 5 years and just now decided to bestow my gifts on him. He went as far as to insinuate I might have cheated and learned new tricks. Well, maybe not exactly everyday skill. I have hundreds of hours of study and flying time in high-end flight simulators like FS Labs A320 and PDMG 777, all for fun. This was my career choice until an eye injury ruined my chances permanently, and thus could probably handle one of these airliners pretty okay in most situations. I have also flown small GA aircrafts in real life a few times, but it's too damn expensive to pursue as a hobby. Mental unit conversions when dealing in ounces, grams, kilos and pounds. Video games. If you're too good, you are clearly a hacker using cheats. The Boondocks taught me being able to run extremely fast in high heels is pretty suspicious. I'm just saying, sheer ho. Throwing things into bins from across the room. Get it in first time, it's sheer luck. Twice as skill. 3 or more shows it's something you practice far too often.